All City Network back here at the winter meetings here in San Diego. My name is Jesse Friedman from PHNX, along with Patrick Lyons from the NBR, as well as Ryan Herrera from CHGO. Patrick, Bill Schmidt apparently alluding to some possible interest here in some of the bigger names, potentially Carlos Rodón, Noah Syndergaard, Chris Bassitt. There's still some big names out there to be had on the free agent market as far as pitchers are concerned. I know that there haven't necessarily been a ton of reports connecting the Rockies in particular to those names just yet. But sometimes, especially at the winter meetings, you're kind of trying to read deeply into everything, right? This is where we scrutinize every word that comes out of the mouths of every GM in baseball, right? And sometimes you can learn a lot from what GMs say.
Yeah, Rockies haven't really been linked to anybody here at the winter meetings. In fact, if anything, they discussed having an interest in Brandon Nimmo, only to then take that off the table. So a little bit frustrating for fans. But as you said, asking Bill Schmidt questions, and the Rockies in general, they do like to keep things a little bit closer to the vest so they can kind of feel things out. And basic question was just asked about maybe looking for a Chad Kuhl type of player. They picked him up last year on a one-year deal for $3 million. It worked out really well for the first 3 months of the season. Through that complete game.
He threw a complete game.
Complete game, 3-hit shutout against the Dodgers. No single man had ever done that before. And then, we won't talk about the second half, but nevertheless, and he might even be a player that could come back. I think there might be some interest. But bottom line is, he was asked, are you looking for a number 4 type? Hey, we're looking for all kinds of pitchers. That definitely leaves it open. Carlos Rodón, maybe.
Before you get any further, would we call Chad Kuhl second half cooling off?
We would.
Is that what we call that? Okay, just making sure.
Oh my gosh.
I like the puns. Cooling off. Okay,
and we hope 40-man player warming Bernabel, does exact opposite when he gets to Double-A. But again, that leaves the door open. It does make you think something could happen. But you guys have obviously been following Major League Baseball for a while and have seen what the Colorado Rockies have done in the past. And I would want to levy a question to you. If you could name any free agent pitchers that have ever got any notable pitchers that have ever gone to Colorado, and your silence speaks volumes. Not very many, huh?
You mean pitchers that have willingly gone to pitch at Coors Field when they could be pitching elsewhere? I'm going to say none.
Yeah.
There you go.
I guess guys have signed extensions, right? They've gotten some of their pitchers to sign extensions, which honestly, in some ways, is surprising, right? It's like, why would you stick with that team if you know that maybe you could go somewhere else and put up better numbers and do better for yourself in free agency? But yeah, I got nothing. Ubaldo Jimenez, he was a homegrown guy, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't count. So, other than him, I don't really have a whole lot of great Rockies pitchers in my head from the last decade or two. And it makes sense, right? That ballpark just isn't really going to attract that sort of thing. So, for guys in particular who are chasing shorter term contracts, maybe trying to reestablish value or whatnot, Noah Syndergaard maybe could be one of those guys. It's going to be hard for them to maybe justify going to Colorado where maybe their numbers won't look as good as they would somewhere else.
Yeah, with Carlos Rodón, his market is still going to get hot. He's now, the biggest name that you could go out there and say, hey, we now have an ace. So I don't think he's going to cool. And that's something that the Rockies are really kind of counting on right now. They did discuss, Bill Schmidt did, about the free agent market for a left-handed hitting outfielder being a little bit higher maybe than they would prefer. But at some point, those valuations will come down as the offseason wanes on and there's less and less spots. There's fewer seats at the table, if you will. But Thor is Noah Syndergaard, one of those guys where he's going to have to take a shorter-term deal. So he may have to go, all right, 2-3 years, possibly to Colorado, or even a Chris Bassitt, who's an interesting type where a lot of people feel like he is maybe more of a number 2 guy, but he's also a little bit older, and he's only going to get so many bites of the apple. And if Colorado goes out with an aggressive offer, that could be something that moves the needle for both club and player.
Yeah, definitely. Jesse, what do you got?
Is it your sense, Patrick, that is it your sense that in general with the Colorado Rockies, there's a certain dollar figure where if they exceed that, they can get players to come there regardless of the fact that they're pitching in Coors Field? Or do you think there are a lot of free agents out there who are just I don't care if you give me the sun, moon, and stars, I'm not going to pitch in that ballpark no matter what? I don't know if you have maybe a sense for what that looks like.
That's a great question. That's sort of the algorithm that goes into maybe even being in a conversation with one of those bigger name players is how do you mingle in there, right? Like
Yeah.
what's the number? What's the formula?
Yeah.
And you
It's not
obviously
just money
need,
all the time.
No,
like a lot of times it is like, hey, sell me on your organization. Like sell me
Sure.
on what you're doing here. And the Rockies, unfortunately, are not in a position to make the best of cases right now, at least when it comes to pitchers, where the ballpark isn't going to do them any favors,
And
right?
it may be like where we're seeing some of the free agents, Aaron Judge, Trey Turner, leaving some money on the table to go to a place they want to be versus whoever's just going to throw the most money at them, right? So it may not be that the Rockies could get a high enough number to entice those kind of pitchers to go to Coors, because they just don't want to pitch there, or they're more comfortable somewhere else, right? That may be the case. So. I mean, of course, money does talk. So if they just blow someone out of the water, it may happen. But at that point, would it still be a free will? I don't know if I would still consider it going there on your own free will.
You're getting danger pay there. But you need to add at least one more year on top of what the next biggest offer is, and then increase that average annual value, by a certain percentage point, right? If we're talking about some of these higher end guys, it would be a lot more. Then at that point, again, you're talking about a starting pitcher making very substantial money.
Yeah.
And you're doing it at Coors Field, where it's already so difficult, just with the track record, with everything with Mike Hampton in the year 2000, along with Denny Nagel, Darryl Kyle a little bit before that. It's just one of those formulas that just doesn't work really for the Rockies, and they got to get creative. That's where the trade market, I think, comes in and makes a little bit more sense. I think Noah Syndergaard could be one of those guys, but really it's all about the other 29 teams. As you said, just a better location where you're going to feel comfortable. And if you're signing a 2-3 year deal, you're going to go back out on the market one more time. That's where a guy like Chris Bassitt could be the interesting one. 33 years old. Again, you probably may have to give him a 4 or 5 year deal, and he's going to know that, either I got to be really good in my age 37, 38 season, or this might be my final bite at the apple. This is going to be my one chance. It does mean threading the needle, quite closely there. It just might not work. That's where the trade market, I think, makes a little bit more sense in this way.
Do you think draft pick compensation would be an issue with a guy like Chris Bassitt, like the Rockies being in the position that they're in, like going out and getting a free agent and choosing that over draft picks right now might not be in the cards for them, I imagine?
Yeah, great point. That's one of the things to note about Carlos Rodón as well as Chris Bassitt.
Yeah,
is both
Carlos
of those guys,
Rodón, it's probably easier to stomach, right? I mean, Carlos Rodón is like, it's like, okay, he's Carlos Rodón. Like, you'll put up with losing a draft pick. But Chris Bassitt he's good, but he's maybe a little bit more on the edge where something like that would factor in.
Yeah, both those guys were offered the qualifying offer. So if you sign them for the Rockies, they would lose their second round pick. And that's something that they pride themselves on as a draft and development organization. So to do that would kind of go against the grain a little bit. But they have done this before. It's not completely without precedent. In the 2016 offseason, they went ahead and decided they were ready to contend. And they were absolutely right, because they did go to the postseason 2017 and 2018. But they signed Ian Desmond to a 5-year, $70 million deal.
Yeah.
They at that time for the CBA, you lost your first round pick if it was outside of the top 10. Rockies had the 11th overall pick.
Oh, wow.
They lost it. They're the only team to lose a pick that high for signing a qualified offer. They didn't pick till somewhere in the 40s there in the supplemental round. Got Ryan Vilade, no longer with the organization this offseason, designated for assignment. Now with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Pandemic hits. Ian Desmond decides to leave and says, just keep my paycheck. My tenure in Colorado is only 3 years. Also cost the Rockies a first round pick as well.
There you go.
Seems like some of the free agent moves they've made as far as position players have not panned out super well for the organization. Ian Desmond was not necessarily. It was bizarre to me that he wound up playing first base, like for as much as he did. I remember thinking of him as more of an athletic, like, oh, this guy could play center field or whatever. That didn't necessarily happen during his time in Colorado.
I'd also say some of the trades they've made for position player, or giving away position players more specifically.
I don't know what you're talking about, but
they may also not have worked out.
You're not allowed to say Nolan Arenado. We are.
You are. Okay.
I am. I'm very much allowed to do that.
I will say Cubs fans are not happy with the Rockies for trading him to the Cardinals for a bag of peanuts. I will say that.
Well, the Cardinals also got $50 million in exchange for those peanuts. Interesting we bring that up because, of course, today in the Rule 5 draft on Wednesday, the Rockies actually lost Mateo Hill, son of Benji Gill. He came over in the Nolan Arenado deal, so he was selected in the minor league phase of the Rule 5 draft. So one less piece from that Nolan Arenado deal has gone away. Again, to your point, it's the trade. That's the way to go. That's what we'll be talking about on tomorrow's show. This idea that the trade route is the way to go, especially when free agents might be a little bit hesitant on the pitching side.
Yes.
So truth be told, Carlos Rodón, Noah Syndergaard, Chris Bassitt, if you're a Rockies fan, maybe tap the brakes on the excitement
Syndergaard.
a little bit.
Syndergaard, maybe.
Okay.
A hard maybe, folks.
All right.
Hard maybe.
You heard it here first from Patrick Lyons. Noah Syndergaard, a hard maybe to the Colorado Rockies. Thank you for joining us here, everyone. We've got another 24 hours-ish of winter meetings events here in San Diego, so be sure to keep it locked right here to DNVR right here on YouTube.